Please welcome once again Eric Kales.
Good morning, fellow EOers. How's everybody feeling today? Got a few empty seats. I'm sure they'll be around in just a minute. First of all, is that a fabulous video by Brian Ansley? Maybe it was a little loud. Maybe we'll show that again. He's got some real passion for something. Maybe at the end of this session, we'll show that again. A really good impact. So I'm sure everybody had a great time last night. I'm sure I did. Very excited to kick off today's session. You want content? We got a boatload of it. A couple little housekeeping things I want to start with, of course. The first thing is, if you guys have seen this lovely lady walking around, her name is Katie Bear. Katie's our event manager. Katie worked for a year and a half so that you could be sitting right here. So you know yesterday we had our Hug a Sponsor program, which by the way is working quite nicely. Today we're going to do the, in true Philly style, yo Katie, and give her a high five when you see her in the hallway. Her efforts, can't thank her enough. So once again, yo Katie, high five, that's today's program. But don't forget about the Hug a Sponsor program, that's still live. So let's start talking about today's session. Like I said, I'm going to weave a couple of stories for you about Philly's favorite son, Ben Franklin, over the course of the couple of days here. So the story I wanted to tell you today is how Ben Franklin actually got to Philadelphia. Basically, he was a young man and he didn't have any bright future, and his father said, you know, you're going to apprentice for your brother James. And James ran one of the two newspapers in Boston. Now, back in the day when you apprenticed, that means you signed up for 7 years, no pay, in order to have the right to open up your own print shop or newspaper. So Ben Franklin, being a smart kind of guy, he gets involved in his brother's newspaper and he sees, man, they're just not selling enough copies. So he says, what can I do to help this newspaper? But he can't talk to his brother James, who's the oldest of all the Franklin children, because his brother's not that cool. So he says, you know, I'm going to come up with a plan. And he decides to position himself as a 61-year-old widow by the name of Silence Dogood. And he writes these letters in the voice of Silence Dogood. Remember, he's 17, and he's writing letters as if he was a 61-year-old widow. And every night he goes and he slips one of these letters under the door of his brother's newspaper. Well, the brother sees that this is an interesting commentary on what's going on in the colonies and interesting things about society, so he starts to print the letters in the paper. And everybody becomes obsessed with what Silence Dogood is going to say next. And the paper circulation increases, and now they're making money like crazy. But James, his older brother, says, I gotta meet this Silence Dogood. These letters are coming in, I have no idea who she is. So he sits in the bushes outside of his print shop, and he waits, and he waits. And here comes his little brother, Ben Franklin, sliding the letter under the door. Of course, James goes ballistic because he's embarrassed that his little brother in his mind, shows him up. They have a huge fight. That night, Ben Franklin steals away on a ship from Boston to Philadelphia to escape his brother and this horrible apprenticeship. He lands right at the end of Market Street, the same street that we're on right now. He gets off the boat. He walks up Market Street, which was then called High Street. He gets a job in a local print shop to start his career, and the rest is history. So think about yourselves, how you all had to start your business, and you all had adversity, and you all overcame that so that we could be sitting here today learning how we can improve ourselves as well. So what I'd like to do now is to introduce one of our sponsors, Blank Rome. I'm personally very thankful and grateful to Blank Rome. They've been a sponsor of the EO Philly chapter for as long as I've been in the chapter, and they've been a wonderful partner. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Corey Jacobs, who's going to introduce our first speaker. Thank you.
As Eric said, Blank Rome has been a sponsor of EO for over 15 years. What do? Mostly, we help businesses like you realize your dreams of building a successful business and exiting a successful business at a high profit. And we'll speak to that today. But what I'm here to do this morning is welcome our keynote speaker. Our keynote speaker this morning is Gary Vaynerchuk. Gary is one of the pioneers of e-commerce, starting his family's wine business, growing it from $3 million to $45 million using e-commerce. He was one of the first people to use YouTube to market his product, conducting a YouTube live wine television show every day that had over 100,000 viewers per day. Think about that back in the day of YouTube starting up. Gary right now has a business where he advises Fortune 500 companies on using social media to attract customers, and I'm sure that Gary will delve into that further. So without further ado, we are very pleased to have Gary Vaynerchuk as the keynote speaker for the EO Nerve 2014 conference.
Morning. Hello. Great Jets. I'm pumped already. How many people here actually don't know that much about me or have any idea who I am? Please raise your hands. All right, that fucking hurts. Tough start. Okay, cool. Since it's about 50%, which first of all, I appreciate getting 50% to know who I am is actually pretty good. So I will apologize to the people that know my spiel, and I'll give a little bit of 5-minute context on my backstory for half the crowd that doesn't know who I am. And then, because so many of you do, and because I can speak pretty quickly, I'd like to go into as much Q&A here as possible, because the truth is, I think that's where it gets dramatically more interesting. After you have context of who I am and listen to this, you'll be able to go to YouTube and watch other keynotes I've given. And so I think at some level, context is what I'm most passionate about, and the context is we're here together in real life, and the content is fine, but I think the engagement will be dramatically better. So let me spiel my thesis, try to incorporate it into your world, and then we'll go into Q&A so you can ask me about what actually matters to you under that theory. I was born in Belarus in the former Soviet Union. I came to the US when I was 3. We were very poor. I lived in Queens, New York in a studio apartment the size of this stage. My dad got a bunch of side jobs. It was a very ghetto lifestyle. We had $100 kind of thing. It was super interesting. My dad eventually got a job as a stock boy in a liquor store in Clark, New Jersey. We moved to Dover, then Edison, New Jersey. And when I was 6, I started my entrepreneurial career. It was in Edison, New Jersey, where I started my 7 lemonade stand franchise. Now, convincing your 6-year-old and 7-year-old friends to stand behind a lemonade stand the whole day and basically you're skimming 90% of the profit is a fairly solid business model. Do you guys remember Big Wheels, those little bikes? I used to ride my Big Wheels at the end of the summer days and pick up my cash for my 7 locations like I was little Tony Soprano or something. So that was my first business. That was good. When I was 12, I started my first substantial business. For anybody in here who's like 35 to 42, you may recall that during those years, baseball cards had become a huge phenomenon in the American society. I jumped on that bandwagon and I started a baseball card business. And when I was 12, I was selling 13, 14, 15. I was selling baseball cards in the malls of New York and New Jersey. And I was making $2,000 to $3,000 a weekend selling baseball cards. And the way I kind of look at that era for me is when you have $30,000 in cash under your bed and you're 13 and you're not selling weed, you're doing a good job. So that was good. That was, in some weird way, like my ambition is to buy the New York Jets, which is going to obviously cost me several billions of dollars. I still believe in my heart that I will never be more rich than when I was 13 and had 30,000 in cash. I mean, Nintendo was like $200, right? So that was that. Then I turned 15, 14, I'm trying to remember, 15, and my dad ruined my life. My dad at this point, very much my entrepreneurial hero, came to this country with no money and no language, and at this point now owns his own liquor store in Springfield, New Jersey, small shop that he now owns, and of course, first generation, oldest son, I'm dragged in and have to be a part of the family business, which I was happy to do. The problem was I went from making $2,000 a weekend to making $2 an hour, 15 hours a day, bagging ice in the basement of my dad's liquor store. I call those 2 years the dark ages. That was a tough blow. Getting $30 a Saturday instead of $2,000 hurts your heart, especially when you're a kid. And like any young entrepreneur, I thought everything that my dad did was wrong. I had a lot of different ideas. And when I was finally 17 and allowed upstairs from the basement, I started looking for the angle that could create a passion, because the truth was my dad's store was called Shoppers Discount Liquors, and I had no interest in selling Coors Light and Absolute Vodka at dead cost, which was the business model. And I just wasn't interested. On a faithful day, everybody came in and asked for the same wine. It was the Caymus Special Select 1991 Cabernet Sauvignon. Wine Spectator, which is the holy magazine of the wine world, had named it the wine of the year. And 30, 40, 50 people came in asking for that wine. Everybody coming in and leaving because we'd sold out. I decide there that the next person that is going to ask for it, I'm going to create a back order for it. We didn't have a back order system, but that was okay because I was going to school on Monday and wouldn't have to deal with that shit anyway. So guy walks in, goes, do you have the Caymus? I go, no, we've sold out, but I'll take a back order. What's your name? I'm like, okay, great, your address, phone number. I go, how many bottles would you like? And he goes, well, I'll take 6 cases if you can get it. And I was like, oh shit, an alcoholic. I was like, 6 cases? I'm like, are you throwing a party? He said, no, I collect wine. And that was it. When he said that, I mean, when you like hear a song or like smell something, you can literally be brought back to a moment. Like I'm literally standing here right now telling you this story. I can literally feel the way I felt in the Chardonnay section of my dad's liquor store when that happened, because that was the moment that my life changed. Because when I said, you collect wine? And we got into a 5-minute conversation about wine collecting, and I realized right then and there, it was like Frank Thomas, Ken Griffey Jr., Wayne Gretzky, Michael Jordan, Silver Oak, Opus One, Caymus, Chateau Lafite, same shit, And basically I took all my passion of learning every stat to my passion of learning every stat in the wine world. And no 17-year-old child should know as much about Burgundy and the Rhone Valley as I did, but I went all in as a complete DNF student. I would spend all my time in school reading about wine my junior and senior year of high school, because I knew what I was gonna do. I was gonna open up 9,000 wine shops across America, sell the franchise, and buy the New York Jets, right? So that was the plan. And I did nothing other than create behavior to do that. And then I went to college, and in my first semester, my life changed again. I was playing Madden 94, dominating by the way. I was playing Madden 94, my friend runs in and says, hey, you have to see this. I'm like, cool, finish off the game, go into the room. By the way, Madden 94 was the first year they did old school teams. The reason I was dominating was the 69 Jets, Namath to Maynard, every play was unstoppable. Anyway, walked into my friend's room. He's sitting in front of a computer. Now, at this point, I'm a freshman in college. I had never owned a computer. I probably at this point, I'm now 18 years old. I'd never owned a computer. I had probably spent 20 minutes on a computer in my life. I had a word processor that I was supposed to write my papers on that I never wrote. And now I'm sitting in front of a computer, and my friend Tokyo Joe looks at me and he says, yeah, I know, he's the best. He looks at me, and I look at the computer. I mean, this is how insane, the fact that this is 20 years ago, which is long, but not really. I look at him, I'm like, oh, is this the information superhighway? I mean, remember, like that's literally what we called it for some of you youngsters. He's like, yeah, and it was the first time I heard the coo-coo-ch. Remember that sound? Yeah. Dial up, when AOL was charging us $3 a minute to be on the internet. Talk about a real business, right? And then he looks at me and he says the words that changed my career. He gets online, AOL, and he looks at me and he goes, we can get chicks on this thing. And I was like, yes. It's like, okay, here's where it gets really ridiculous. I wait 3 hours because I was 6th in line to play on the internet. And I stood there for 3 fucking hours watching people be on the internet. I finally get my turn, and within 20 minutes, the first thing I did, I saw there was a search tool, and within 20 minutes of being on the internet, I found myself on a bulletin board selling baseball cards and comic books. And right then I knew, for the first time, at 13, 9,000 baseball card stores, sell it by the Jets. At that moment, prior to that moment, 9,000 liquor stores, sell it by the Jets. And now I was looking at something and I realized, holy crap, I don't need to open up 9,000 liquor stores. And I started the learning process. 24 months later, I launched WineLibrary.com. It was the second e-commerce wine business in America. 2 years later, I came home from school and I took over operations of my family liquor store business. I grew my family wine shop. I rebranded it from Shoppers Discount Liquors to Wine Library. And from 1998 to 2005, in a 7-year window, I grew that business from a $3 to a $65 million business. This is where it gets relevant to you. The only thing I'm good at, the only reason I have the luxury and honor to stand in front of you and have your attention right now, the reason I'm allowed to do this is, the ironic thing is, unlike many of you, I suck shit at 99% of business things. I'm not that good at it. There's plenty of things I'm very bad at, but there's something I'm really good at. And one thing that I'm really good at is recognizing that way too many of us in this room try to work on our weaknesses instead of quadrupling down on our strengths. I've never tried to work on my weaknesses. I've only 8x'd or 40x'd or 100x'd what I'm good at. I triple down, I quadruple down. It's why I accepted being a DNF student. What I'm really good at, and what I want to talk to you guys about today, is the thing that I've spent my whole career on. The reason I built that business to a $60 million business. The reason that in 2009, when I decided to build my personal brand and write books and speak, that I was able to build very quickly in a 3 or 4 year window and be one of the prominent figures in that space. The reason that over the last 3 years in launching VaynerMedia, my social media agency, B2B business, that I've been able to grow it from a 20 to 400 person organization and from a 3 to a $45 million business in that time period. The reason I've been able to do all that stuff, the reason I invested in Twitter and Tumblr in 2007 and Facebook in 2008 and Uber 4 years ago, and all the money that I make, all the business good stuff that happens to me, it's all predicated on one thing, my friends. The biggest thing that separates me from a lot of people in this room and in the world, my advantage, the number one thing I see from the Facebooks and the Twitters and the Ubers and the Birchboxes, the number one thing that I see now that I have perspective in having 100 clients that do billions of dollars in their Fortune 500s, the startup entrepreneurs that I meet, small businesses, because I care about that, groups like this, there's only one differentiator. There's one thing I look for in every one of you if I'm gonna do business with you or invest in your thing or have you as a client. The one differentiation, the one thing that's gonna separate every single person in this room going into 2015, 2019, 2022, the number one thing I'm looking for is, what I'm really good at is marketing in the year that we actually live in. And I'm gonna let that sit for dramatic pause. Okay. The biggest problem right now and / the biggest opportunity right now, and by the way, the entire rant I'm going into over the next 40 minutes is gonna be predicated on hoping to get 1 or 2 of you to actually do what I'm talking about, because I'm real practical. You're about to get really fucking pumped for the next 40 minutes, but then next Tuesday happens, right? And then you don't do what I'm about to talk about. And so what I'm trying to do, very honestly, I'm being really open right off the bat, I'm looking for 1 or 2 people. Looking for 1 or 2 people in this room to understand what I'm talking about, to understand what is actually happening, to understand that the internet is the biggest culture shift in our society since the printing press. We are currently living through the second industrial revolution that everybody in this room, including me who fancies himself to knowing what the fuck is going on, is grossly underestimating the technology and culture shifts that we're living through right now, and that within that, there is enormous opportunity and enormous danger depending on what you decide to do. Do you in this room run your business like it is June of 2014? My gut, with all due respect, is you do not. Because I watch it every single day as we completely disrespect the fact that communication in our society has been shifted forever. We are living through the single biggest culture shift. You know why I built Wine Library from a $3 to $60 million business while everybody was confused what that kid was doing? Was because when Google AdWords came out, I bought the word buy wine and Cabernet, and I owned the word wine for 10 cents on Google for 9.5 months before anybody bid me up. That's why. You know why else? Because while every other idiot was making a catalog and shipping it to you in the mail in 1997, 8, 9. I started an email service. When the first customers I asked, hey, do you have an email? They're like, yeah, I do. I'm like, I'd like to join you for my email service. This was being done in the store. I'm like, what's your email? They're like, AOL@yahoo.com. I'm like, no. That's how I was asking for email in 97. So while everybody was spending $4 printing their catalog to tell you the new this was out, and then $2 to ship it, by the time you got it, I emailed you 90 days, 150 days earlier, and you had already bought it, and I spent no money on that email other than the time it spent me to write the email. And then in 2003, when banner retargeting cookie ads came out, right, and when people thought cookies were the shit you put in milk, I was doing that and realizing, geez, if I follow you around the internet with my banner ad, eventually you're gonna be like, fine, I'll buy your fucking wine, right? And then in 2006, 4 months after it launched, when everybody was like, what's YouTube? I started a YouTube show. And that's where my career really kind of took a turn. What happened was, I saw YouTube and I was like, geez, this is really a game changer. I went all in. At this point, I'm running this business, and now I'm starting this wine show where I'm sitting in front of a camera and I'm tasting wine. And the first 80 episodes, I'm petrified that I'm gonna lose my clients because, it was such a new medium and I didn't really want them to know what my true personality was and all the things I really cared about. And so I was kind of still doing my thing. But then right around episode 87, I kind of felt comfortable and became myself. Everybody thought I lost my mind. Everybody in my organization, including my biggest advocates, thought I lost my mind because I was spending an hour taping this show, and it was on this thing called YouTube. And 18 months later, everybody thought I was a genius because it started emerging as an important platform, and this was 2007 and 8. And then it took another 2 or 3 years for most people in here to even know what YouTube was or care about it. When you're early, there's a land grab. While many people sit around and try to look for the numbers and decide what the ROI is of something, the action is happening. And when I hear people say, Gary, there's a lot of risk in me jumping into Vine or Snapchat right now. And I say to myself, my God, there's so much more risk for you not to. And so it's offense or defense, right? It's not complicated. What I'm confused by, though, is that people aren't living in the world we actually live in. Because the other thing is this. How many people in this room, by show of hands, signed up for Living Social or Groupon 2 or 3 years ago during its heyday? Raise your hands. Raise them high. Don't bullshit me. Good, 70%. So all of you remember 3 years ago how you couldn't fucking wait to get $40 worth of sushi for 20 bucks, right? How it was your best day to get that email for $80 nail treatment for $40, right? You remember that? How do you like those services now? You don't. Because the number one thing that I know more than the sun will come up tomorrow is that marketers ruin everything. It's what we do. And so, it's true. Guys, when I saw Snapchat, I couldn't wait to fuck up that little ghost. I was pumped. I was like, cool, all the kids are gonna be on that and I'm gonna figure out how to sell them shit. That's what we do, that's how our brains work, right? And so that's what, how many people here who have done email marketing or involved in email marketing within an organization or have historically been involved with email marketing any point in their career? Just raise your hands. Awesome. So for some of you, new timers in email marketing, in 1998, I had 400,000 people on the email service of winelibrary.com, and I had 89.9% open rates. Yeah. And 71% click-through. You know why? Because marketers hadn't ruined it yet. Because email, how many people had email in 1998 and were using it? This is fun. Remember how you read every fucking word of every email in 1998? You did. It's just the way we did it. Marketers hadn't ruined it yet. Spam hadn't come along. The tactic of putting your name in the copy, but it was like a different font and color. That didn't make you feel good. It made you feel like shit. All that. And so that is what happens, my friends. And everything I believe in right now, Facebook dark posts, Pinterest, everything I believe in that drives business results right now will be ruined by 2019. It'll be more expensive and less effective. And that's the cycle of every single medium in the history of storytelling, and that's the way it works. And so, I continue to be confused by people that debate what's going on while it's going on, then finally jump in and believe in it and are getting diminishing returns. And that's why I'm able to make money, because I'm a fast mover, because I'm not crippled by the notion of being wrong if the platform doesn't hit. And most of all, because I'm confused by this room and everybody else when they say, well, how do you know which ones to jump into? I don't know. How about the one that went from 0 to 100 fucking million users in 2 minutes? How about that one? I mean, people are always like, you're always so right. Like, I'm always like, I'm not Nostradamus. I'm like, I just live in the world that we actually live in. I was in a meeting with a Fortune 500 CEO who does $1.3 billion in sales to 12 to 19-year-old girls. And I went through my entire 2015 plan for his business. And I said, look, we have to shift a lot of our money into Instagram and Snapchat and Vine, right? And he sat through the whole thing. I gave him all the numbers, all the stuff that I think most of those guys like numbers and shit, right? All that good stuff. I did all the right things. I did it in corporate way because I really want him to do it because it will really affect his business. It'll be really good. I was really excited. And then the guy goes, Gary, listen, this was great. He goes, here's my problem. He goes, I don't really get Instagram. And I said, that's nice, Dick. That's his name, I'm sorry. No, that's his name. Really, it is. I go, that's nice, Dick. I go, but the problem is 200 million of your customers do. The amount of people in this room who have made a romantic decision on not changing or evolving because of the way they grew up or the way it is or the one that pisses me off the most, the way it's supposed to be. Really? You're fucking God? The amount of people that sit in this room, and clearly if you're in this room, you're winning. You're a leader. You're thinking about this stuff. You give a shit. You're trying. You're hustling. You're winning. And the amount of people even in this room, forget about the masses, even in this room, that have made an emotional decision. The people in this room who've drawn a line in the sand because they're scared of going on the other side of it because they don't know it, or because they're comfortable in the way they've done it. The single best way to go out of business, my friends, is to be romantic about how you make your money. I see it every day, and so have you. And here's where I get really scared. Here's the problem. You've seen dudes like me before. You've been to conferences like this before, where the guy comes up and says, this is coming. I was this dude. In 1996, as a kid, I stood in front of a YPO event and said, by the year 2000, all of you are going to come into stores with phones and take pictures of the product, and it's going to show you every price of the product. And this way, price is now becoming the game. All of you need to get into price and the rise of private label. This is the game. Well, here we are 14 years past 2000, and that is still not behavior outside of a little bit of Best Buy, Amazon dynamics. So you've seen what I'm talking about. You've heard in seminars and in organizations and in people pitching you books through the years of this is coming. If you don't change, you're fucked. And then you live and nothing happened and you start becoming cynical to the message and you're right. Here's what I'm most fucking scared of. What we are seeing now with the maturity of the internet, because the internet has now hit a 20-year age. And I know there's some nerd in the background. Actually, Gary, 1950s, I know fucking nerd, but I mean normal people. Normal people started getting on the internet with Windows 95, right? Normal people started getting on the internet with Windows 95, and now we're at 20 years. Now we've got a generation that grew up with it, right? How many people in this room do not remember the world pre-internet? And I don't mean your memory's a little shitty. I mean, you're young. Do not remember the world pre-internet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, 6 people. 2 were lying for sure. Because we've got 6 people in here who do not remember the world pre-internet, right? Think about that. It's just starting. And so what I'm scared about is what I'm gonna rant about for the rest of my time, and you're gonna listen, and you're gonna say my favorite things. My favorite. Well, my customers, they're not on those things, right? That doesn't matter to me because my customers are not on these things. How many people here in this room have a 14 to 22-year-old child? Raise your hand. 14 to 22. Perfect, good amount. To all of you, you remember this conversation 3 years ago? Hey, little Ricky. Hey, little Susan. I don't give a shit how you talk to your friends. But when your mother and father call, you pick up the fucking phone. You remember that? Just curious. How'd that work out for you? And the reason they're laughing for the people that don't have children in those age groups, let me explain exactly what happened. There are grown-ass men in this room who in the last 24 hours have texted LOL and OMG. And little Ricky and little Susan are not such geniuses. They just have technology on their side, and they're dragging us down. My friends, we are living through the youthification of our society. If you look at the data of the behavior of the people in this room, you will be blown away. If you look at the average behavior of a 43-year-old woman, her behavior and what she wears, how she goes out, what she buys, how she communicates, maps to the average 29-year-old woman just 10 years ago. It's incredible. The fastest growing sector of selfies are 40 to 50-year-old women. Cougar selfies, guys. If you are fortunate enough to be in this room and you remember your parent at your age, if you are fortunate enough to be sitting in this room right now and have the luxury and the luck of knowing your parent at the age that you are now, please for 1 second, think about them, do the math of how old you were. Please think about your parents right now at your age. I promise you, they were a lot older than you are. The things they were doing, the way they were hanging was much older. And so what's happening is we have a room of professionals in this room who say, well, my customer's not on Facebook or Instagram. Maybe they're on LinkedIn, right? My customer's not on this. That is the exact same rationale that Netflix put Blockbuster out of business with. Blockbuster sat in a room and they said, our data shows right now that people like going to our stores. Yeah, thank you. Can you come and tour with me? I could use that laugh in that moment. By the way, are you really ready to laugh? Here's what the report actually said. They like the experience of going to our stores because they like the ability to open and close and read the back of the DVD cases. Gets better. They enjoy the serendipity of possibly running into their neighbor. This is what the report, by the way, that's my favorite part about reports and data. When you have an agenda, you can make a report do anything you want. Thank you. And then finally, they really like picking up popcorn on the way out. I don't know about you guys, but here is the experience I like. Laying naked in my bed and pressing one fucking button. Every magazine rag in marketing right now is talking about the demise of Facebook. Ad Age can't get enough articles out about organic reaches dropping. Startups and a food blog wrote an article breaking up with Facebook. Here we are in June of 2014. I stand in front of you to be historically correct, so you look back at it and say, Gary was right. No other reason, because I don't really want to share with you my secrets, but I'm lucky enough to know that 99% of you are not going to take my advice anyway, and thus, I'm just going to be historically correct and continue to build my brand, which is why I'm about to tell you what I'm about to tell you. You like that one? You like that setup? It's just true. It's fucking true. It's ridiculous. At this moment right now, if you haven't heard this term, please write it down. I see some of you writing it down. There's something called Facebook dark posts. The official term is Facebook unpublished posts. It gives you the ability to no longer worry about building up your Facebook page and then pounding those people. It now gives you the ability to go on the back end of Facebook and target every single person on Facebook as long tail as you want with data that I've never seen or could conceive before, because not only is it Facebook data, but it's data coming from the outside world. You want to sell a used car? How'd you like to go in somebody's feed with your ad or piece of content who's used their AAA card 3 times this month? Because then you know, for those 1,700 people, you could write something like, are you pissed at your car? Fuck yes. And so we're living through a moment right now, June 2014, where Facebook dark posts are the best conversion, DR, conversion, forget about branding and engagement, the best conversion product that I've seen since Google AdWords in 2000. And yet, all my contemporaries, lots of the other social media experts, definitely the advertising medium, continues to pound and say Facebook down, organic reach down, and I just sit there and laugh. And I sit there and laugh and remind myself, my God, thank God I've stopped talking about every other subject besides social media, wine, and the Jets. Because if this is what I sound like when I talk about healthcare and politics and food, then fuck, I'm never talking about it again. And that's what I mean. We have a lot of people, a ton of people who want to be pundits and very few that are practitioners. That's it, my friends. Just what's going on every single day. That if you are marketing in this world and you do not realize that Instagram right this second is the new Facebook, that everybody from the ages of 13 to 40 put their attention to this platform, but that you cannot functionality-wise have a link out from your piece of content, which then cripples people with the notion of, well, how am I gonna track its value while I sit in fucking rooms and they're arguing with me, how am I gonna track the value of this Instagram piece of content while they pour millions of dollars into print and outdoor media that are doing the same exact fucking thing, except it's doing it for a world that doesn't exist anymore. My friends, do you know that, who here has run a print ad for their business or runs print ads in any magazine of sorts or newspaper for their business? I do. Who does? Raise your hands. Do you know us suckers that just raised our hands that we're paying 8 times the circulation of that publication just in case Ricky leaves Sports Illustrated or the Philadelphia Inquirer on the fucking train and Johnny comes along and looks at it? We're paying 8 times the circulation because that article is going to be read 8 times by people. And if you think anybody's getting to page 137 where your 1/4 ad is in the bottom left corner, you're out of your fucking mind. Guys, do me one favor when you leave this conference. When you get in your car and you drive, I want you to look at 5 people. 5. When you leave this conference, do me one favor. 1. You want to do me one favor? Look at 5 people when you're driving on your way home out of this conference. I promise you, here's what I know. That I did billboards all over 78, the Jersey Turnpike. I did billboards my whole career. I like billboards, it's grand. It made my brand big, right? They're great. But look, every single passenger in those 5 people, if there's a passenger, I promise you, is looking at their phone. So you're telling me that a billboard in 2014, June 2014, is as valuable as it was in 2006? It's not. Because that same passenger used to just sit there and kind of like, they're in a conversation, but they maybe passively saw those images. I've got something scarier. Of the 5 people you're gonna look at, 3 of the drivers are looking at their phone. Guys, I'm literally, because I do it for marketing, it's actually changed my behavior. I actually now drive my car with 2 hands for the first time since I was 17 years old, because I'm so scared of you fuckers. So my friends, you think that a billboard is worth a multi-billion-dollar industry? You think billboards are as valuable in 2014? My friends, people aren't looking at billboards. They're barely looking at the fucking road. And that's where we're at. Commercials. My clients spend billions of dollars. How many people in this room, in this year, in 2014, are watching everything outside of live sports and live event shows on their time? DVR, TiVo, Netflix, On Demand, HBO Go. Please raise your hand if you watch your TV consumption or movie consumption when you want to watch it in one of those formats. Raise your hands and don't get lazy because I want to get a real sense. I'm talking about 85% of this room, maybe more. Just curious, how many of you in 2014 have fast forwarded every single commercial? Raise your hands. Guys, we are sitting in a room that I think we can all agree is not a high school crowd, right? And 85% of this room is doing everything in their power to escape the consumption of a commercial in a world where they're spending $55 billion producing and distributing commercials. And even if you're lucky to get your commercial through to the 15% of the people here that are not doing that, even if you're lucky enough that a commercial gets through because you dropped your fucking remote off your bed, even if that rarity happens, everybody in this room, the second something goes to a commercial, goes for their phone and checks their email or tweets out their 2 thoughts on the Desperate Housewives of Orange County, or more importantly, I was at a bar. I've been a big proponent of spending money on sports television, but I was at a bar last year for the NBA Finals, and LeBron did something ridiculous and it went to commercial, and I watched every single goddamn person in that bar go to their phone and go to Twitter or Facebook to leave their 2 cents. We live in a world now where our customers, definitely the ones that are growing up and soon to be us as our behavior youths down, we live in a world right now where every one of us thinks that our 2 cents on every single thing is for the record publicly. We've got to add our 2 cents, the rise of 2 cents, right? And so when you're leaving information, you're not consuming information. My friends, this is all about supply and demand of storytelling. The supply and demand. The one thing that binds every person in this room, the one thing that binds you, I have no idea what you all individually do, B2B, B2C, whatever you do, the one thing that binds every one of us, the one thing in the context of business is, before you tell me how great your thing is, before you tell me why I should jam with you, buy your thing, do business with you, before that, the one thing that binds us is, before you tell me your story, you need my attention. And we have a very big problem right now in 2014 in the supply and demand of attention, because there's way more stuff and the day's shrinking quicker and quicker, and we're valuing time more and more. How many people in this room are willing to admit, by show of hands, this is a tough one, so don't bullshit me. How many people are willing to show, and I don't want you, some of you are gonna do this, so let's own it. How many people in this room are willing to admit that they have now gotten to the place where you actually get pissed off when somebody actually calls you? Raise your hand. Can you turn up the lights? Like, I want everybody to see this. This is insanity. And turn them up. Like, I want everybody to, I don't know if you could turn the actual lights in here. You gotta help me here. As a matter of fact, this is so insane. I need this one. Can you guys do me a favor? I know this is a little bit of, I appreciate it. Actually, let's keep it this way because I need the faces. I feed off their fucking faces. By show of hands, how many people in this room have gotten to the place where they actually get pissed off when another person calls them? One more time, hi. I want people in the front row to look at this. This is the highest percentage. I've been doing this for about 6 months now. This is now, by the way, every single talk it's growing. Every single talk. When I did this 18 months ago, I almost got booed. Like, people were like, you're pushing it a little far, guy, right? And there was like a couple people. Almost half this room is mad when another human being calls them. That is because, quietly, unbeknownst to you, if you're not paying attention, the number one thing you value besides the health of your family and money is your time. And time is money is a classic saying, but this is different. Again, because this is not a high school crowd and only 6 people remember the world pre-internet, do you guys remember, because I sure do, remember when work actually ended in a day? Remember, like, I used to think I was a workaholic. I used to come into the wine shop at 7 a.m. and leave at 10 p.m., but I still had time for myself at 10:15 when I got home. That game is over. Everybody thinks you're on the record at all times. My employees, my business partners, my investments, they think if they email me at 11:14 p.m. that I should be responding at 11:15, that is the expectation, that is what's happening, that is the world we live in. How many people have started texting or getting texts from people saying, can I call you? It's so interesting because you know what happens? We evolve, right? Because we're starting to realize this, you've become considerate. I would really take the lights back if you're willing to give it to me, unless I'm screwing you up because I love the faces. Because we realize it, we're now becoming considerate because we know it's a value prop. How many people are familiar with Uber, the car service, Uber, real quick? So one of my great investments, even though I passed in the first round, left a lot of money on the table, but got in a little bit later. I always say, I invested not because they were a transportation company, because they were selling people time. You know, if you're in New York City ever, it's amazing. There's no better transportation. There's no better transportation. And because you can get an Uber in a minute instead of a cab in 4 minutes serendipitously, or you might get it in a minute. Even the chance of losing time, you're willing to pay double. We are living through the single biggest culture shift of my time, and what's happening in this room is you're spending money and time on dumb marketing. If you cut 25% of the dumb shit you do day in and day out because you've always done it, because it's what you think is right or how you thought it was, or that your customer wants it this way, if you cut that 25% of dumb shit and you invest it into where we're going, or more, very honestly, I'm positioning it that way, I'll say it in a different way, where we are, you will win. There's a reason that the government spends an ungodly amount of money on the military. There's a reason it spends an ungodly amount of money on Green Berets and Navy SEALs. Tanks and traditional warfare don't solve everything. You've got to have new stuff. And you've got to do your Navy SEALs work. You may think that Twitter is dumb. You may think that Facebook's not cool anymore, or who's there, or my customer's not there. You may think that, but every piece of data and every growth of every company in America over the last 18 months proves you wrong. And that's it. How can I convince you to market in the year that we actually live in? That is what I ask you. How can I convince you that the attention of our consumer every day goes more here and less here and less here? How can I convince you that I'm a networker by trait and that I use Twitter and Facebook as a gateway drug to get to this evening? That I have relationships with people that I see once or twice in a blue moon, but because of the digital presence and engagement, that we have deeper relationships than the nature of the time we've actually spent together. So that when we actually try to do business, I close more business because I've been contextualizing and networking digitally and emotionally at scale using the tools that are afforded to me in the world that we actually live in. And so you are more than welcome to continue to draw lines in the sand and say, not my industry, not my customer, not us. You're more than welcome. As a matter of fact, I'd prefer it. More for me. But I implore you to start paying attention because we are living through the biggest culture shift of our time. And if you have the audacity to sit here and think that things that have overthrown governments in the Middle East that had dictators for 40 years is not something that is affecting your fucking business, then go ahead. Not me. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. So I left 15 minutes for Q&A because that's philosophy, that's theory, that's my rant, that's my gospel, but practicality is what I live on. Please don't let this sizzle confuse you for the steak. I don't build $60 million businesses on my charisma or my Jersey mouth.
Ladies
Questions?
and gentlemen, raise your hand. Microphones will be coming to you.
What's your name, my man?
Hi, my name is Ishan. So I kind of shuttle between New York and Delhi. Set up my first internet business way back in 1998. I'm going to pick up two aspects of what you talked about. First thing you said was, when marketers get to something, they kill it.
Yes.
Don't you think? So, secondly, you talked about the Facebook back pages.
Yes.
I recently booked tickets and a hotel room in England. Post my booking, my Facebook news feed was suddenly filled with offers of hotels in London.
That's right.
It pissed me off.
Correct.
Don't you think Facebook is now over-marketing itself to the last point we had, that it's becoming an invasion of privacy, where I actually raised my hand and said, don't call me, send me a text if you want me to call you back?
Not yet.
Why do you say that?
Because I look at the sales, the numbers. The only reason your theory, as I set up, is 100% correct. That day will come. If Facebook stops innovating, Facebook impresses the fuck out of me. They're the only company that has continued to innovate. When they started going into not showing every page's stuff, everybody complained. What I realized they were doing was they're trying to protect the thing they care about, which is they don't want to piss you off. You've decided to be pissed off by that, and that's great, and I don't disagree. And as everybody gets good at this and everybody does it, that will happen. The reason I tell you that I don't agree right now is because I'm looking at the numbers. We have growth in conversion, not decline. Decline will come. Decline will come in 15 or 16 and 17, and then I'll look at it and I'll be like, aha, decline. And then I'll start worrying about some other shit. That's it. But what I do know is that SEM is down 17% in click-throughs this month. That Google AdWords, which I would have sat here in 2003 and yelled about, and I would have said it would have been ruined, and you would have asked me, I don't click them as much anymore because I used to like when Google was clean, and I would say, you're right, and I'd say, but not yet, and you'd say, why do you say that? And I would say, because I see the numbers, and then that decline started happening in 2012, because we got behaviorized, right? And so that's my answer, my friend. Marketing in the year that we live in. Too many people project what's gonna happen. Too many people don't wanna agree with what's happening. I don't give a fuck, I just care about right now.
Your buddy Dick.
What's your name?
Scott.
Scott.
Your buddy Dick, the Instagram, Snapchat
CEO,
guy, who didn't want to
yeah.
CEO. Like, how did you land him as a client? Did you use things like Instagram and Snapchat, or did you use, old school methods to land him as a client?
Oh, I like you. What's your name again?
Scott still.
Scott, I appreciate it. This is a great question. The answer is both. Him, word of mouth of another client, the work we did, word of mouth. Oh, by the way, if you're curious what social media is, it's the plumbing of word of mouth in our current society, if you're wondering. But to answer your question, because I know where you're going, let me paint you a picture of the $4.7 million account that I just landed using social media only in a way that nobody thinks about social media. So there was a CMO of a company I really wanted to get to, right? And I had no real angle. I have a big brand, so a lot comes to me, but I wanted this one. It was strategic for a lot of reasons. So I followed him on Twitter. Who's in B2B? Raise your hand. Awesome. So most of you are sitting here and saying, cool, but for B2B, it's different. Let me explain how it's not different. I built a huge B2C business. I'm currently building a huge B2B business. I'm both. I'm really not prejudiced to either. I promise you, B2B is easier. Let me explain why. Unlike B2C, you know the fucking name of the person you're selling to. Let me just say that one more time. You literally know who the fuck you're selling to. Whether you know their name, you definitely know their title. It's ludicrous. I'm so pissed that I was in B2C for all those years. This B2B shit is fucking awesome. So, I do this every time. Anytime I want to sell to somebody in a B2B context, I take their name, I go to something called Google, I put it in, I hit the space bar, and I hit Twitter. And I find their Twitter account. 30 to 40% of the time, that person is on Twitter. Sometimes they're not, that's okay. But this time, that person was. And then I started following them. And I didn't hit them up with a tweet and say, hey, check me out. Hey, check out VaynerMedia. Hey, look at all this insane work we're doing for GE or Ritz or all that stuff. I didn't do those things. I didn't try to throw a right hook on the first date, right? I didn't do that. Nope. What I did was I listened. And I found out, Scott, that this guy is a huge St. Louis Cardinals fan, because that's what he talked about. And so what I started doing, Scott, was doing all the same stuff that you and I have been doing for 20 years, but we've been doing them over steak dinners and golf and really inefficient ways like that. And I started using Twitter to listen to what this person cared about. And I started mapping his emotions. And when you map somebody's emotions, you can exploit them for sales. And so I started talking to this guy about, randomly, I wonder if I drafted Colton Wong on purpose or because I was strategic, but I drafted Colton Wong, upstart second baseman of the St. Louis Cardinals, on my fantasy baseball team. And I started talking to him about Colton Wong, which made it very easy for him to look at my profile and see that I was the CEO of a social media agency at a time where he was debating the value of his. Got it? And every person in this room can do it. But it takes patience, it takes time, it takes being a great salesperson. You know what a great salesperson is? A listener. Most people suck because all they're doing is closing short term. Most of the salespeople that drive great results for me suck because they're short term players. It's just a close. They're incentivized on the bonus on the close that's in front of them. Life and building actual wealth and building an actual business is a marathon. It's an Ironman, not a sprint. All right? And so that's what I do. So I know where your question went. And I can tell you right now, I like them both. I love being here. I wish I didn't have to run and could stay 15 minutes, shake a hand, get a biz dev. I fucking live on that. I grew up with that. I love that. I do the same shit at scale on these platforms. Same feeling. You're gonna tell me I love when people are like, well, it's not the same emotion. I'm like, really? A letter that was written to you didn't have any emotion in it? You don't get any emotion? Sure, tone can be lost in a text or in an email. Tone can be lost in a face-to-face conversation too. So, that's the answer.
Hi, Gary. I'm Joe.
Hey, Joe.
So first of all, thank you very much. You're awesome.
Appreciate it, brother.
I would like to ask you a question. Can I come up to the stage and do a selfie with you and the whole EO behind us, because I'm part of the communications of Brooklyn and New York, and it would be really awesome to do that. It'll just take a minute.
Yes.
Thank you.
Let's clap it up for this man.
So I have something called a selfie poll. Have you
Yep,
ever seen
I've seen it.
Yeah, awesome. There we go. Let's do one like this so we get the side. And then the other side.
You got it?
Awesome, thank you.
Thanks, brother. Thank you so much. Now, if you think that shit would have happened in 2009, you're out of your fucking brains. Mark it in the year that we actually live in.
So, Gary.
What's your name?
I'm Cheryl Barone.
Hey, Cheryl.
So 4 years ago, you came to see us in EO, New Jersey, and you convinced me to establish our footprint.
Who's from Jersey?
Transportation.
Yeah. Go ahead.
And so people now think our company is much larger than it really is because of that. So that was an awesome event. So you did affect us at least. So now I'm asking you, we need to recruit freight agents to join our company. I'm looking, how could we use Instagram and Snapchat and stuff like that to do recruiting and get our name out there? Because that I'm really not able to figure out. Or what else would there be?
You should go to LinkedIn. You should search freight agents or whatever title they would use. You should map all those people. You should run LinkedIn ads to target them specifically. You should also take those names, put them in Google, add the word Twitter, and start talking to them. You will convert at scale.
Great.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Hey Gary, David from EO New York. You came as well 4 years ago. I guess you were on tour, and you inspired me then. I didn't think I was going to learn anything new today because I said I saw him 4 years ago. What am I going to learn new? And I was really unbelievable. So one of the things that I think you talked about a lot of great things. One of the things that I feel was not talked about was the actual message.
Yeah.
And I think that's because you're so authentic. That's sort of, I think, helped your brand grow. Our target market is lawyers.
Yep.
So we're on LinkedIn, we're on AdWords, direct mail.
Yep.
I haven't felt like it would be authentic enough to go on Instagram or Vine. And yes, I don't even use them. But I guess not specifically for me, but for everyone, one of the things that I find when we go on Facebook or we go on that, what do? Here's a discount code, here's this, here's that. And I feel that it would be sort of, yes, lawyers are people, but sometimes I feel it's hard to listen and to stand out from the crowd from all of us bad marketers who are just saying discount code, discount code, discount code. So what is how do you let us all be authentic in our own?
Yeah. First, I have a serious question.
Yeah.
Because that kind of blew my mind. Lawyers are people? Can you flash the book cover real quick, if you guys don't mind? Thanks for the question. I appreciate the setup. This entire book is predicated on your question. The reason I wrote this book is you're getting to the real crux of the issue, which is the creative is the variable of the conversion, right? So what I did there was that I did a textbook for an F student. It's 120 case studies of what's good and bad content on all those platforms. You can take it off. Got it? So let's get into that for a second. I first have to convince you guys that this is where the attention of the consumer is. This is why I love doing Q&A, because you've set me up for the comma, the next part. Now, if you believe, You actually have to know how to storytell on Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Pinterest, Instagram. And one thing a lot of you do, because I looked at some of the people using the hashtag for this event yesterday, I looked at their accounts and their businesses, you use the same picture and the same copy on Facebook as you do on Twitter. You even do the dumbest thing in the world, which is you connect your Facebook and Twitter account so copy goes to both places, because you've defaulted into thinking that social media is distribution. But what they are is they're platforms to actually storytell, and you're disrespecting the psychology of the person in the platform. When a 40-year-old woman or a 22-year-old woman is on Pinterest, her psychology is window shopping 3.0. When she's on Facebook, she's keeping up with her world. That is a different psychology. You need a different message. You said the real thing, my man. Lawyers are people. And so, you have a way better chance of closing a lawyer talking about fishing and golf and football and cooking or whatever the fuck they care about. And oh, by the way, Facebook knows what they care about. And creating contextual ads that matter, because we have tuned out the hard sell. That right hook in that book, it's hard to land because we've all stopped jabbing. And when you know the right hook's coming, you duck. And so the creative is the variable. Yes, I'm authentic, but I spend all my time trying to figure out what you want. Nothing else. Yes, I have bravado and confidence and ego and whatever it is, so it makes it easier for me to do my thing. But it's really not that hard to do. It's just that we want to say what we want to say versus we want to say what the other person wants. Humans are flawed. And humans are the ones that are making the marketing decisions. And that's why so much marketing sucks shit. You got it, brother.
We'll have time for one more question.
Damn.
Hey, Gary.
Hey, brother.
My name's Borzu. I have a
What's
question
your name?
about Borzu.
Borzik?
Borzu.
Borzu?
Yes.
Fucking awesome name. Shit, I wish my name was Borzu.
We do. We can work on that. We do B2B stuff, and I have trouble deciding sometimes when to go after stuff with my personal social media or like the company's social media.
Yep.
So where do you kind of like draw that line, or how do you pick and go after stuff?
That's a good question. The truth is, that's an intuition game, right? That's like just a pure intuition game. Like, there's not enough, if I sat and looked at the context and you're like, here are the 15 leads, I think I'd have good intuition to figure out where to go, but that's like raw talent, right? That's like asking LeBron how to drop 33. I don't know, fucking do it. That's a tough one, because that is really instinctual sales, and you have a feel for the customer, and which, that's understanding that, that's me understanding that 6 people in this room didn't like this talk because they were clouded by the dirty mouth and it made them check out, and that's okay. I respect that. I really do. It's tact, it's understanding, and so you've got to figure that out for you more based on them than you. Back to the last answer, right? Guys, I'm pissed that I have to leave because I feel like we could have really jammed for an hour, and I have no idea who's speaking after me, but they're clearly not going to be as good, and so, I'm just kidding. I'm sorry for overspeaking. And I wish you guys health and happiness. Thank you. Thank you.
As I anticipated, thank you. It's a little gift from us. We really appreciate it. Okay, enjoy it.
Thanks for having us. I'm a plotter. I'm not a quick buck maker. I'm thrilled. If I can get it in 25 years, 63, that feels right. 25.
So, here's the problem. I'm the speaker after him. That was fabulous, and I hope that got you fired up for the rest of the day of content. That was exactly our intention. So I got some stuff going on. Here's the breakout sessions, okay? That's where you're gonna go next. Now, there's a small problem. Some of you are like, hey, I don't exactly know what these breakout sessions are exactly because we didn't give full descriptions, more of the bios. If you stop by the registration desk on your way out, right outside the door, you can have a full printout of everything that's going on. Right now, you want to choose exactly where you want to go. Obviously, there's limited space in every single session, and every single one of these breakout sessions feature rock stars. So make your choice, go get a description if you want. Here's the schedule for 10:30. At 11:30, you're going to move into breakout session number 2. Then we're going to have lunch together, and then we're going to go into breakout session number 3. Guys, if I could have your attention for a second, I got some housekeeping. Don't leave yet. I got some good stuff coming, please. Guys, sit on down. Just a couple minutes. It'll take care of some good housekeeping. Make sure that your day is flawless. Here we go. Next thing, Either the breakout sessions are on the floor above us or the floor below us. Very simple. We're in the middle now. You want to either go up or down, and the map on your mobile app will be able to tell you where to go. Next thing, you got a problem with that, find one of our fabulous entrepreneurial interns wearing the orange shirts, and they will direct you to where you want to go. By the way, big shout out for them. They're working hard today to make sure that everything runs smoothly. Next, mobile app. Use it. Evaluate Gary and all the breakout sessions that you're about to go to. Like I said, we really need that information, and all the maps and all the information is also there. So it's a great tool to have. Now, there's something really cool going on here. We have an EO from St. Louis by the name of Rick Marchbanks. He has a really cool company, and he said, you know, I want to give Nerve a little extra juice. In his exhibit services, you'll find right outside the door here and outside Millennium, where we ate breakfast this morning, this really weird looking sideways flat screen. On there, he's exhibiting what his company does, which is the distribution of content, meaning that anything that's going on in Nerve, go up there, push a button, see what's going on. He preloaded everything that's going on in here. It's really cool. Give it a second and check it out. I'm sure you'll be blown away. It'll also help you get a high ROI on your next trade show activity. Now, let's talk about the EO library. Some people had questions. Rather than have a whole bunch of books that you got when you checked in and then you left them in your hotel room or you threw them away, nobody likes that. We wanted to make it easy. So all the speakers that have books today are located right next door. Go shopping. Walk up and down the table, choose the books that you're interested in, blow off the ones that you're not. And when you get to the end of the table, FedEx, one of our sponsors and partners, is waiting there for you. Put it in a box, ship it back to yourself. You won't have any hassle. Yeah, you have to pay a couple of bucks to FedEx to take it home, but you won't have to lug it on the plane or deal with it in your hotel room. I don't want any books left at the end of the conference. It's all good content. When you come to a conference like this, you don't just listen and go home. You got to do stuff. The learning continues if you read the books from our speakers. So make sure you stop in there, and while you're in the marketplace, of course, you also want to check out all of the people that are in there. They have some really great stuff to show you. The Entrepreneurs Wiki is in there too. If you want to be memorialized for your entrepreneurial accomplishments, you can grab a quick video and it goes on the Entrepreneurs Wiki, a whole new thing that's helping people that want to be entrepreneurs learn from our experiences. Check out the rest of our marketplace members. They really worked hard to give you a great set of content. Now, back to our Hug a Sponsor program, working real well. Just wanted to remind you, when you see someone with any of these companies on their badge, give them a nice hug and thank them. Once again, their contributions make speakers like Gary possible, because we obviously wanted to make sure that we had all the finishing touches on today's conference. Now, finally, I want to turn you on once again to a really, really cool video. This video was playing when you came in, and we were all like loud and nobody was paying attention because it ran a little early. Just a few minutes. I want to show you a video by one of our members, Brian Ansley, who's real passionate about his pursuit. And here we go.
In the life cycle of the entrepreneur, we have a few stages. Stage